Hey guys, it's Marshall Mathers the fourth here, back to you today with another video. And in today's video, I will be talking today about the fact that I really hate parents who buy their kids their first car or first vehicle, whatever vehicle that may be, because it doesn't have to be a car. So, first vehicle. And the reasons why I hate parents that do that for their kids is because, first of all, that's unfair. Second of all, they're just spoiling their fucking kids. And even if their parents can't afford their son or daughter, or both sons and daughters, a vehicle, they'll just simply get into debt to get their son or daughter or sons and daughters a really nice brand spanking new vehicle. And by doing so, they're just giving their children ridiculous privileges that they do not deserve, because their son or daughter or sons and daughters will never have to, buy their own fucking vehicle. They'll never understand or know just how very hard and difficult it is for most young people, teenagers, and people in their 20s to afford their very first ever vehicle. And, the reason why I also hate parents who buy their kids their first vehicle is because when they do that, their kids have just this overwhelming sense of pride because their kids think they're on top of the world, literally. Like, for example, when I was a teenager in the 2010s, and I would walk around the city that I used to live in, when I used to have a friend that I walked around with who was a piece of shit, piece of fucking garbage, trash ass friend, and was not ever a good friend to begin with, but was the closest thing that I even had to a friend, even though he used me and he was never that good to me and even stole some money from me. Was never that much, but it was still like $5 in the past. But anyways, and he never paid me back. But that's not what this video this is not what that video is about. But I remember walking around with him, and we were walking around this lake, and we saw this one guy that we knew from high school, and he was driving around in a brand new fucking car. And it was also a convertible because the roof retracted. It was like one of those convertible cars that the roof could either come off or go back on or whatever. And while he was driving around, and he was just a fucking teenager, he just had the look of pure pride on his face, and not the good kind of pride. He had the like, I'm so cool, I'm so badass, I'm better than everyone else, I'm on top of the world, look at me in my fucking brand new car that I myself would not have been able to afford if it weren't for my fucking parents who bought it for me, who probably, if anything, got into fucking debt to even get their sorry ass, good for nothing, spoiled, rotten, privileged little shit son a brand new fucking car for his very first vehicle as a fucking teenager. That is just so annoying and pisses me the fuck off. And you know what? I see this a lot, actually, where I see these good for nothing, wretched teenagers and young adults who are in their 20s who are driving around in vehicles that I know for an all-around fact that they themselves would not be able to afford on their own. Not a chance. No way in hell would a fucking teenager or a young adult in their 20s be able to afford a brand new vehicle, whether that be a car, a truck, a van, an SUV, whatever it may be. Brand new? No. Not even the slightest chance. They definitely got helped or supported some way financially to get that. even if they paid for part of it. They definitely didn't pay for most of it, and I bet they didn't even pay for half of it, for that matter. If they even did pay for any amount of that brand new vehicle at all. And, I just find that so irritating because you know what? I would love to have a brand new vehicle. I would, literally. I wish I did. I wish I had the money in order to even buy my own vehicle with my own hard-earned money that I made on my own by myself. And I wish I could just easily pay for and buy a brand new car. Like, I'd love to have and be able to buy and own a Chevy Malibu, for example. But those fucking cars cost what? Like fucking $25,000 to like fucking $34,000 easily. And it's just insane. And it makes me furious as hell, especially when I see some pretty noticeably young adults driving around in a Chevy Malibu. But then again, they're not like that young as in being in their teens or 20s. They're more like in their 30s and 40s. And, even if there is a young adult driving around in a Chevy Malibu, either his fucking parents, grandparents, or aunts and uncles paid for it or all kind of pitched in to pay for it, or he got into debt, or he probably graduated high school or at least got his GED and either went to college or trade school or whatever to become a welder, an electrician, a plumber, or something like that in order to even make a high wage in order to even pay for a car like that in the long run, ultimately. And obviously, if they're doing it that way, then obviously I'm not going to be mad or pissed off or furious or jealous and envious of someone who has a really good paying job, who worked their ass off and earned a high paying job or high paying position, whether that be a welder, plumber, electrician, doctor, surgeon, lawyer, whatever it may be, but did it all on their own by themselves, no support at all whatsoever. And they themselves bought their own brand new vehicle with their own hard-earned money. If that's the case, then fine. I can live with that. I can accept that. But when it comes to teenagers and young adults in their, well, not really young adults in their 20s, but teenagers whose parents buy them their first vehicle, it just makes me rage like a motherfucker. I'm not even kidding. It is so annoying because, these teenagers drive around like they're living on cloud nine. They're just so caught up in the moment, and they're so full of themselves and narcissistic, self-centered, self-absorbed, self-righteous little pricks. And they think they're so great, and they think they're just better than everyone else when they themselves did not and would not be able to afford their own vehicle by themselves on their own, unless it's a piece of shit, piece of fucking garbage, really used and worn out and just barely working vehicle, then yeah, of course, they probably paid for that on minimum wage, because you can easily do that on minimum wage. But when it comes to a brand new vehicle, there's no way in fucking hell a teenager who's 15, 16, 17 years old, or even 18 and 19 for that matter, could easily be able to afford a brand new fucking vehicle off a car lot. That is not possible. I'm not even joking. That is not possible. Now, unless you're a famous YouTuber or a famous fucking celebrity, then yeah, of course, if you're a teenager, then obviously you're going to be able to afford a brand new vehicle or even one of those even way more expensive vehicles like a Bugatti or a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or some shit like that. But that's only if either you're a famous YouTuber and you're like a fucking millionaire, or a famous movie star, or a singer, whether that be a rapper, a pop artist, a rock artist, an R&B artist, or whatever. Or even if you're really famous because of Instagram, then yeah, of course, you're going to be able to afford a brand new vehicle. But if you're just any normal, everyday, average, ordinary teenage guy or girl, there's no way in fucking hell you can afford a brand new vehicle. Regardless if you want to say so or think that or not. Because have you seen the prices of brand new vehicles? I mean, I literally just last night shared how much a brand new vehicle costs, like what the amount like stops at and is like the maxed out limit, and it was literally like $48,000. And that's like the price that a brand new vehicle will max out at. That is fucking insane. That is fucking ridiculous. I mean, even vehicles that cost any more than, oh, I don't know, $10,000 are expensive as fuck. Literally. Not even kidding. You know, even to buy a used vehicle that's just sold from some random person off the side of the road or wherever for like, oh, I don't know, 3,000, 3,500, 4,000, $5,000 is not that cheap. Yes, it's cheaper than obviously brand new or pre-owned vehicles that you would buy from a car dealership, but it's not necessarily cheap. It's not literally cheap, you know. And with the way that, you know, minimum wage is and has been for like ever, and how minimum wage continues to be just such a piss poor little minuscule tiny micro amount of money that seems like it will never go up and raise, even though we have fucking inflation and also just monstrous corrupt multi-billion dollar multi-million dollar corporations who just love to raise the prices of all of their products even if there isn't inflation, but the wage stays the same. Decades later, it just continues to stay and remain the same. And with the way that the wage is and has been since like forever, vehicles, even vehicles that are sold in and at car dealerships, whether they be brand new, pre-owned, used, whatever, should literally only be like, I don't know, like $10,000 at the most, maybe 15,000. Honestly, like maybe like I don't know, 15,000 for a pickup truck, maybe 20,000 at the very most and highest. But even that is quite a fucking bit amount of money. But I would say like $10,000 to $15,000 for like a truck, a family-sized van or an SUV or something like that. And then like for a car should be like, I don't know, like depending on what brand and what kind of car it is and depending on how good it is, I want to say like $2,000 or $3,000 to $5,000. That is literally how much and how expensive cars should be for those types of cars, which are pretty much all the types of cars or vehicles that are sold in and at a car dealership. I mean, literally, if you think about it for a second or a minute, how low that the wage is and continues to be and just continues to remain, even as we keep on moving forward and progressing into the future, and with problems like inflation, and even before inflation, vehicles were not cheap at car dealerships. Every single time I drive past a car dealership, or even am in a car with someone, and just glance at each and every single one of the vehicles in a car dealership lot and just read the prices of each and every single one of them on the windshield, I'm just like, what the flying fuck? What the hell is up with these prices? I mean, literally, I cannot believe how ridiculously high and insane and just unbelievably overpriced brand new vehicles are. And even if the vehicle is pre-owned, which is not brand new, or if the vehicle is used, because there are used vehicles sold at car dealerships, there are also pre-owned car dealerships, and then of course there are obviously brand new car dealerships. But every single one of them, the price value of used cars, pre-owned cars, brand new cars sold at car dealerships, all exactly the same. Not even joking. Not even joking. Like, every time I see a car, whether that be a Chevy, a Ford, a Saturn, whatever it may be, a Jeep, a van, a truck, an SUV, a Suburban, whatever brand, whatever car, vehicle it may be, the prices on the windshield of the vehicles will literally pretty much always be like in the $20,000 range, in the $30,000 range, in the $40,000 range, and so on and so forth. And I just can't help but scratch my head and think to myself, how do these car dealership owners and car manufacturers expect us, just normal, average, everyday, ordinary people, knowing that most people, the vast majority of us Americans, work minimum wage jobs? And that is a fact. And not only do the vast majority of Americans only work and have minimum wage jobs and like a minimum wage salary or whatever, but they will also work those jobs until either they're old and retired and can't work anymore, or work them until literally the day they die. And they'll give so much of their life to these shitty ass, piss poor, low paying, extremely gay, lame, minimum wage paying jobs, whether they be grocery store jobs or fast food restaurant jobs, which I hate the most, factory jobs, working at the mall, I don't know, any job that's minimum wage. And you just give so much of your time in your life to these jobs that don't care about you. They don't care about your health or well-being. They don't care or give a damn if you get hurt or even die on the job, for that matter, because you're replaceable. They don't love you. They don't respect you. They don't care about you. And, you know, knowing most Americans, even if they work minimum wage jobs until either they're old and retired or until the day they die, or like they work minimum wage part-time, full-time, overtime, whatever shift or whatever like position they have, they will always continue to stay and remain poor, because there is no way to save any amount of money when you work a minimum wage job. I'm not even kidding. There is no way in fucking hell to save a damn cent when working a minimum wage job. I mean, have you motherfuckers looked out in the world and seen with your own two eyes, as long as you can see, the prices of literally everything? I mean, have you? I honestly want to know if any of you have actually looked at the prices of vehicles, houses, groceries, clothes, etc. Like, have you? Because sometimes I feel like either you're just being stupid and just trying to troll the shit out of me and just annoy me and get under my skin, or like a bunch of idiots, you actually believe that things are cheap or things are decently priced, or that if you have a minimum wage job that somehow, some way you're going to be able to afford paying for a vehicle, whether that's brand new, pre-owned, or used or whatever, or pay for a house, pay for apartments, pay for groceries, pay for clothes, pay for insurance on your vehicle, pay for whatever, pay for gas, pay for diesel, whatever it may be. Like, no, you can't. You can't pay for all of that. And even if you can on minimum wage, you can barely do it. And, that's only if you literally work full-time or overtime at a minimum wage job anyways. I mean, that's the only way that you even have a chance at paying for all that shit. Oh, yeah, and another thing, health insurance is another thing to be considerate about that is expensive as fuck in America. And it's just ridiculous. It is insane. And, I can't tell you how many stories I've heard, and just from a general point of view, just how often and how much I hear people say that they can barely get by on their job. Well, no duh, Sherlock. No shit. Obviously, you can barely get by financially because minimum wage jobs suck balls. That's the whole point of minimum wage, because it's the minimum. It's the lowest that you can make. And minimum wage jobs ultimately are jobs for people who are, I don't know, high school dropouts, people who refuse to get their GED, people who are too lazy and stubborn or whatever to go to college or to try to go to trade school or to try to get a much more skilled paying job like a welder, plumber, electrician, carpenter, roofer, floor installer, doctor, nurse, surgeon, brain surgeon, lawyer, whatever. Like, with jobs that are actually extremely high paying jobs like that, psychiatrist is another perfect example of a high paying job. People who are not willing to do those jobs for whatever reason, or even try or pursue them or whatever, wind up having to get minimum wage jobs, which in a way are kind of like a mocking sort of job, because it's like, well, you didn't stay in high school, you didn't get your GED, you didn't go to college, you didn't go to trade school, whatever, and so this is what you get. This is what you have. Minimum wage job. This is what you have to deal with and accept. This is what you have to live with, because this is the kind of person you chose to be. And it's like, it's just unfair. It's just cruel. And, by now in America, in this collapsing, corrupt, backwards, upside down, twisted nation that is just literally falling apart before our very eyes, regardless if you want to believe me on that or not, that's totally up to you. The minimum wage even by now should not even exist. And wages even at like grocery store jobs, fast food restaurant jobs, factory jobs and whatnot should literally be $20 an hour by now. And even for a while now, for like, I don't know, I want to say like 2010 or something like that till now, the wage honestly should have been $20 by now. And what's so fucked up is, in order to even raise the wage at any jobs, sometimes I feel like the wage should even be $30 an hour for working at those jobs that I just named. Maybe even 40. I don't know, 30 at the very most at least, but at least $20 at the very least in minimum. I mean, come on. But even, no, it's like not a chance of that happening, at least not anytime soon anyways. But it's like, in order to even raise the wage, managers and bosses or whatever would have to fire some of their workers, which is pretty unfortunate and pretty sad. Or um, and that means that less people will be able to have and find work regardless of how hard they try. But also what's really fucked up is that by raising the wage, it would also affect the prices of everyday products in life: food, clothes, shelter, etc., which is so fucking stupid and what just pisses me the fuck off. It just makes me furious as hell that if the wage were to be raised to $20 an hour, $30 an hour, hypothetically speaking, the wage no, the price value of products that I just named right now: food, clothes, shelter, etc., which are the main necessities of life, the three main. But also, when I said etc., I mean also things like vehicle, and things that people want, whatever those things may be, because everybody's different. It's like the price value of those things would raise a lot. And that just pisses me off. It triggers me like a motherfucker. And, I don't know. I just don't know what to even say about that. And it's heartbreaking and crushing that America seems to have just like stopped raising the wage around like a certain like decade or generation or era. And I don't know what generation they just all in all seem to stop raising the wage. I don't know if that was since the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, or whatever it was, because for like a long time in America, the wage stayed and remained so very low. And by wage, I mean minimum wage, of course, when it should have normally and naturally been raising a shit ton. But instead, no, it didn't. Not at all. But the price value of everything else raised like crazy throughout history of throughout the history of America. But the minimum wage, they kept that down. They kept that low. But everything else raised. Cost of living in general. It's just unbelievable. It's outrageous. And that's why it annoys me when parents buy their son or daughter as a fucking spoiled, rotten, privileged little brat, little shit, little prick, their first vehicle. If it's brand new, that is just unfair. That's an outrage. Because they don't deserve a brand new vehicle, especially not as a teenager. Thinking they're all that, thinking they're the shit, thinking they're so cool, thinking they're badass. But of course, so many parents feel they have to do that because they feel pressured by society, because they want their children to have the best of the best, the greatest of the greatest. They want their children to have a high status, even starting in fucking high school with a bunch of annoying little shit teenagers. Like, it's pathetic. And I mean, even though I can kind of see and understand why parents would do that, I still hate it. And I'm still against it. I think it's stupid and dumb. I think it's retarded. But yet parents do that. And parents do that for other things too. They just feel the need to spoil their kids with gaming consoles growing up, and when they become teenagers, a brand new fucking vehicle. Even if they have to get in debt to afford it. As long as my precious little boy or daughter has a nice brand new spanking vehicle that they can show off and brag about and boast about to the other students, and so that they can have a chance to like compete with other teenagers whose parents also bought them, a brand new vehicle. It's just, I don't know, it's just pathetic. Because, I'm a guy in my 20s. I'm 25 years old, and I don't even have a used vehicle. and nor can I afford one. Like, if I'm gonna even like pay for and buy a used vehicle, I would need to ask one of my family members for help because I would not be able to do it myself. Not a chance. No way would that even be possible. Not even a slight chance of that happening. And, if I were to buy a used vehicle, I would sure as hell want it to at least be, I don't know, slightly decent. Like, only have, I don't know, 50,000 miles on it or 80,000 miles. Like, less than 100,000 plus miles. But if I were to try to get a used vehicle that only has, I don't know, 50,000 miles on it, 80,000 miles, I'd probably have to pay, I don't know, 3,500, 4,000, hell, maybe even $5,000 at the most. And I don't have that fucking kind of money. So even when it comes to used vehicles, I mean, there's just no way I'm able to afford that, to buy that. Not on my own, at least. And that pisses me off because, you know what? I want a job. I don't want a minimum wage job, but I sure as hell want a job. And I'm thinking about, honestly, getting a job in Grand Rapids, even if I have to drive a lot to work every day and back home to my parents' house. But, I want a job that's good paying. And I already have a couple ideas of a job that I would like to work at. But that's only if I even qualify or get the job. And I hope to God that I do. But we'll see. And again, that's only if I get a vehicle. And even then, after getting a vehicle, I'll have to pay for fucking car insurance. And as if I can easily afford that. And, with all the expenses that come from having a car, because even my dad said, having a car is very expensive. And, I couldn't agree more. I mean, that is one of the most obvious facts and truths and just really unfortunate realities about our country, our world, our lives, that cars are just expensive as shit. They just really do suck you of your money. They really do just drain you of your wallet. And that is what's so frustrating about vehicles. And yet we need them. We're so very dependent on them. We can't live without them pretty much. And yet they're so expensive. And then, on top of that, you have to pay for fucking car insurance? Are you kidding me? Why the fuck can't I just have a car without having to pay fucking insurance on it? I mean, after all, you already have to pay for fucking gas for a car, gasoline, and gasoline isn't cheap. Even before inflation, gasoline is not cheap. It never really has been. Maybe way back in the day, but not for a while it hasn't been. And if you have a truck, well, guess what? You have to pay for diesel, which is even more expensive than gasoline. So it's even worse for people who drive trucks. And yet it's just like, wow, man. Cars, bro. Expensive. Ridiculously expensive. Overpriced. Things that, unfortunately, we really do need to live and get by. And we're just so very dependent on them. And unfortunately, we have to be. And no thanks to America, which made it so that we had to be, because getting rid of, trains, for example, that hundreds of years ago, or at least even just 100 years ago, used to actually go way out into the rural areas, into the countries of whatever state, and pick up people from the country or rural areas, in other words, and bring them to the city so that they could work and make a living, and then they took the train back home. If things were still like that to this very day, cars wouldn't be so expensive because you would have less people that would even need to be dependent on them. So the supply and demand of them wouldn't be so high. But because America decided, you know what, let's get rid of trains. We don't need trains anymore. Just unbelievable, outrageous. But anyways, let me know what you all think in the comment section down below. I'm out.